Yeah, that's the big dog. Hello again, everybody. Happy Thanksgiving Day weekend. It's time for another episode of Kallas Remarks with your host, Joe Staszak. That's me. Steve is right over there. How you doing, Steven? What's going on today, man? You enjoying the game so far?
All good, Joe. Great to be with you as always. A lot of
Yeah, I
football
always
this
forget.
weekend.
What's that?
A lot of football this
A
weekend.
lot of football this weekend. I always forget about the third game at night, on Thursday night. So let's go back a little bit. It's Friday morning now when we're taping, November 26th. 3 games yesterday. Bears and Lions, inconsequential. Bears win at the gun. Raiders go into Dallas. Derek Carr has a nice game. Deshaun Jackson puts on a little bit of a show, and the Cowboys without 2 of their star receivers, but they've now dropped to 7-4. They lost in overtime, and they were kind of trailing the whole game, and they were never really they never had really a good hold on the game until they tied it late. Raiders don't have a great defense. It was an entertaining game, but is Dallas going to be okay? Thought they were one of the better teams in the league earlier in the year.
Well, they were missing Amari Cooper and CD Lamb, concussion protocol for CD Lamb. And those are, maybe you can have a good offense without one of them. I don't know if you can have a real good offense without 2 of them. Don't forget one of their touchdowns was Pollard running a kickoff back 100 yards.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like they lit up, although Dak statistically had a good game. But I don't think Dallas is that good. I mean, again, they were dominant early on. Their offense was putting up, great numbers. Their defense was the surprise, but I don't know if they're catching up with their defense. I don't think they have too many major injuries. Again, what if they're healthy? Do I think they would have won with Cooper and CD Lamb? I do. It would have been a shootout that they would have won. This was a shootout that they lost. And, I just don't trust Mike McCarthy. I thought he was terrible last year, maybe a little better this year. But I think Dallas is a playoff team. It looks like they're going to win the NFC East by default. I know here come the Eagles. And you could even argue way after the fact, here comes Washington. You'll explain that to me later where they were the first, 8 weeks of the year, but now they're playing well. But I think Dallas is a playoff team. Do I think they're a Super Bowl team? I don't. I think the Raiders might be a playoff team. I think the numbers now. Derek Carr throws for 300 yards. I think they're 6-0 or 5-1, and less than 300. I don't think they've won a game this year. So I'm not impressed with either team. As you said, it was an entertaining game. Thanksgiving, for me anyway, I kind of have the games on. I pay attention when Warren's paying attention.
Right.
You're right about the Bears and Lions, of course. You almost feel bad for Campbell, the coach of the Lions.
Yeah.
But, Nagy might have got fired if he lost that game.
I know, right?
If not, they'd be burning him in effigy at Soldier Field at the next home game.
It will be soon. Don't worry.
But, I'm not overly impressed with Dallas. Their defense has to stay real good. They were clearly playing above their heads earlier in the year. And I don't know if people have found things to do. I mean, if Derek Carr is having a really good year, if he can throw for 300 yards, there's 10 or 12 other guys who can throw for 300 yards against them. And I think Dallas will have trouble when they play the Eagles again. I think a lot of these games are at the end of the year, right? The last 4 or 5 weeks.
Yes.
And I think they might have trouble with Washington now, which 4 weeks ago, we would have said, no, they're going to laugh through the NFC East. It's still not really good. It's better, obviously, than it was last year. But, I haven't looked at Dallas's schedule, but they don't strike me as a Super Bowl contender.
No, I don't think so either at that point. And I'm not even sure who does. I'm sure somebody's going to get hot later in the season. I loved the Bills earlier in the year, but 3 of their last 5 games before last night, they got whooped. They scored 6 points in Jacksonville. They got beat by the Titans. Remember that when they were a touchdown favorite? And then they got killed by the Colts and Carson Wentz last week.
Yeah.
And then they come back and Trevor Siemian beats Tom Brady after Jameis Winston goes down. They haven't been the same since. It's crazy, but the Bills look pretty good last night, 31-6. They're so up and down though. Can you trust them?
I don't know if you can trust them, but they're still a real good football team. I think the problem for the Bills is, look, they have a good defense, but I think the offense is kind of up and down. To score 31 on the Saints, though, that's pretty good. The Saints are a good defensive team. The Saints with a real quarterback, and I'm not even saying Jameis Winston is a real quarterback, they can cause a lot of problems for a lot of teams. But they're 5-6 now, Joe. They've got a big hill to climb just to make the playoffs. And Trevor Siemian is okay. It really is interesting. It's the Joe Staszak rule. The second most important player on the team is the backup quarterback. And we've seen some guys who have come in, but I don't think we've seen guys come in and be consistently dominant. Mike White can throw for 400 yards for the Jets and then throw 4 picks. Siemian, to me, is kind of flattened out a little. He's kind of a vanilla quarterback. I know there are other guys who have come in and made some kind of impact, but I can't think of one. Geno Smith up in Seattle. Seattle is pretty bad with Geno Smith, and so far pretty bad with Russell Wilson back. So they're 3-7, the Seattle Seahawks. Think about that. So I don't know, these backup quarterbacks are backup for a reason. Whatever you think of Cam Newton, he comes and starts for Carolina, and he's just been what? And he's Cam Newton. He's just been, I would say, okay. He scores a touchdown and he runs in Carolina, and he runs to midfield and pounds the ball on the logo at midfield. And I was watching that because I think that's Bush League. It's more Bush League when you do it to the other guy's logo. Those are fighting words. But he does that, and literally not one guy I saw came up and congratulated him. And I remember there was also one handoff where Cam Newton was going to give it to McCaffrey, held it a very long time and took it back and went for like 2 yards. And they showed McCaffrey had like a look on his face. And even the announcer said, I think McCaffrey wanted the ball. He thinks he could have gone 20 yards with it. So I'm not saying there's trouble in paradise. Carolina is a good team. They're fighting for the playoffs, but they're no more than a bottom line playoff team, as good as McCaffrey is. And I did see Cam Newton throw one ball like 20 yards down the field where he looked like he had a little zip. And to me, that's been the question for him the last few years. Can he sling it? And the answer to me still is maybe. I don't really know. But they certainly don't throw the ball down the field. So we'll see. Again, Carolina is a nice team. Are they a playoff team? If they are, they're a bottom rung playoff team. But they're certainly better with Cam at quarterback and McCaffrey healthy.
All right. Yeah, they certainly are. I'm done with Cam's nonsense, to be honest with you. I think it's kind of so old, like his teammates look at him and go, because it's kind of like it's all about me and the Superman thing.
Maybe.
I never bought into it. But let's talk a little this week, because last week the Eagles decimated the Saints. You have the Giants this week, and they're starting to look like a decent ball club. 3-1 in the last 4 games. They were, I think, the first 6 games, they threw the ball 67% of the time, ran it 33 or something like that. Now it's completely reversed. 67% of runs and like 33 passes. It's working. The running game is working. Something doesn't always work, so then you're going to have to rely on Jalen Hurts. And right now, he's just doing what he needs, and he's doing it very well because he's not asked to do a ton. What do you think of how Sirianni kind of looked at things? Coach Sirianni changed things up because he did say to Mark Schlereth on ESPN, I was trying to win the way I wanted to win in the first 5 games, 6 games. Realizing then it wasn't working, I had to make adjustments, and he did. What are your thoughts on that?
Again, God bless him for admitting that, but how stupid is that? The interesting thing in Philly, it's like the Justin Jefferson thing. Right away, thousands of people, including us, were screaming, how can you take Ringer over this guy? And 2 years later, I saw a stat on him where he said, I wish I had my phone. How about this stat? And this is not to continually kill the Eagles for not drafting him, but don't forget, if they had drafted him, they would not have taken the Heisman Trophy winner this year, I don't think. And because of that, they lost the number 6 pick. But how about this stat on Justin Jefferson? Saw it today on ESPN. Most games with 100 receiving yards in the first 2 seasons in the Super Bowl era. Okay, so that goes back to like 1966.
Yeah.
Odell Beckham had 15 of them. Randy Moss and Juju Smith-Schuster had 11, and Justin Jefferson last week got his 11th. So he's tied for second all time, and he's got like 6-7 games left.
Jeez.
So the flip side of that, and the reason I even bring that up is because, again, everybody except maybe the 5 GMs that Philly has, or has guys, they could have 5 GMs because they're so good, the assistant GMs. So this year we look at the run. how long have you and others in Philly been screaming for them to run the ball? Was it after the first game or after the second game? So,
Well, after almost, well, the first game they played, they beat Atlanta pretty good. So it came kind of after the second game and really hit its stride after the Tampa Bay game where they had one carry for 1 yard in the first half. That was Miles Sanders.
okay, so again, maybe they're just slow there, but it just strikes me as incredible that so many people know the same thing. Jefferson last year, running game this year, but there's still a lot of time left. I do want to read you the Eagles rushing stats this season in the NFL. You ready? These are great.
Mm-hmm.
Who has the most first downs rushing? 108 this year. The Philadelphia Eagles. Who has the most yards before contact? This isn't yak, Joe. This is yards before contact. The Philadelphia Eagles have 1,149 rushing yards before contact. They're first in the NFL. Who has the most rushing TDs in the NFL with 17? The Philadelphia Eagles. Who is second with 10-yard or more rushes? They have 52, second only to the Browns. And who are second in total yards rushing this year, including 1 yard, 1 carry, 1 half? They're second. They have 1,687. This is with the Eagles becoming late to the party. Imagine what their numbers were if they started doing it earlier. But it's irrelevant now. They're there. And Jalen Hurts, whatever you think of him, 3 rushing TDs last week. And as you said, they lit up a good Saints defense for 40. Now, the Bills lit up a good Saints defense for 31. So maybe their defense isn't as good as we thought. But I really like the Eagles now. They're really on a roll. Again, it's just kind of funny that it takes the head coach and the staff to understand that after 5 or 6 weeks, not after 2, that they need to run the ball. And oh, by the way, they got Miles Sanders back, I think, last week,
They
right?
did, yeah.
So, as good as those backs are, he's the best of the bunch. And so I think they're going to continue to do it. And while the Giants are, I'll say, fairly good defensively, and they have a terrible offensive line, so I think the Eagles defense gets after them. But I think they're going to do what they've been doing now. They have the right formula to win. And, it's almost the Patriots way now. What are the Patriots really doing with a rookie quarterback? Run the ball, run it down your throats. I always take you back to 13-3 Super Bowl against the Rams. What did they do? In the world of Bill Belichick from 30, 40 years ago, it's what do you do? Run the ball and play good defense.
Yeah.
I think it's similar to the Eagles. The only caveat I give on that game, because I'm going to pick that game, but the only caveat I give is somehow all the NFC East teams seem to be able to turn NFC East games into scrums. No matter what the point spread differential is,
true.
It always seems like a bar fight or an alley fight.
Yes.
Rather than a football game. That's my only concern, but I think the Eagles are on their way up. I think Washington's on their way up. We'll see when Dallas gets their team back, but the worst team in the NFC East now are the Giants.
Right. Yeah. No, I agree. Washington's a little up and down with their quarterback. They beat the Bucks a few weeks ago, who came back and put a beat down on the Giants you just talked about. And we both said, someone's going to pay for that game but the week before in Washington where Brady threw 2 early picks, gave a 90-second press conference. He was upset. He was fired up. They play the Colts this weekend as a 3-point favorite in Indianapolis. Indy's coming off a big win over the Bills. I'm not sure about Indy. They're kind of up and down. But your guy, the running back, right now he might be just as good a vote for MVP as anybody right now. He's been phenomenal.
Jonathan Taylor, absolutely. And I'll say it again. When you look at the Tom Brady team and you lose your mind for a second, you say, well, Bill Belichick's going to take away Taylor. Who are you going to take away? It's not a wide receiver on that team. And it's Bill Belichick against Carson Wentz, except it's not.
Right.
Bruce Arians. And whatever you think of Arians, to me, he's almost like the old guy on the side who's just complaining about his players, including Tom Brady. But he's not the guy who's going to walk into a meeting room and say, here's how we're going to shut down Taylor. Although we'll see what happens. Here's how we're going to shut down Taylor. And, if the wide receivers and Carson Wentz beat us, the wide receivers and Carson Wentz beat it. Somehow Belichick, who's the greatest coach of all time, if there's any doubt now, there's something wrong with the analyst who's saying he's not. Because I'll say it again, last year we talked about that Chiefs game that they lost. This year to play Tom Brady close. Now after 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks, the Patriots are the Patriots with almost a Brady-like quarterback, because Brady was not Brady. You'll recall that first year when they won the Super Bowl. I don't want to say he was a game manager, but he just about was a game manager.
Mhm.
And this is what Mac Jones is. Don't turn the ball over. He hardly throws the ball down the field. He's dink and dunk. But along with a really good running game and a really good defense, that's why the Patriots, I saw a thing when they were 2-4, they had a 1% chance to win the AFC East. And I think Baltimore, I think Buffalo was like at 83% or something. And now the Patriots to win the AFC East, to beat Buffalo, who they were 3 or 4 games behind. Now the Patriots have like a 37% chance to do it, and Buffalo's like in the 60s. I would never bet against Belichick at this stage. Historically, his teams go like this. They just get better and better. And they're getting better and better. They're pretty healthy. So I wouldn't bet against the Patriots to win the AFC East now. And, it's what you said. Buffalo lays an egg every once in a while. If they lay one against the Patriots, if either teams wins both of those games, I don't know that they will, but if either teams wins both, they're winning the AFC East.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I hear you. I think the game of the week, though, has to be, and this is a goofy line again, so I'm not sure what's up with this, but because I think the Packers are actually kind of legit. I thought the Rams were, but they've been struggling lately. They're in Green Bay and a 1-point favorite right now over the Packers. Pretty good matchup, 7-3 Rams versus the 8-3 Pack. What are your thoughts?
I think it's the Joe Staszak rule. That's certainly I'm not picking that game, but if you ask me, Packers at home, their defense is pretty good. The Rams have been up and down. So I'll go with the Packers. I'm not going to pick them because it should be. I thought it would be Packers 3.
No, that's what I would think before I look at it.
They say if you think the teams are even, then it's the home team -3.
Yeah.
But this is now +4 for the Rams. So that's beyond weird to me.
So weird.
So I think it's the Packers. I wouldn't pick them. If I was a gambling man, I wouldn't bet them. But, we'll see what happens. There's a lot surrounding, Aaron Rodgers, but I think he's able to play through all that stuff. It doesn't seem to affect Aaron Rodgers. He's putting his toe up on a table the other day. I don't know if you saw that interview.
Yeah.
It's a little weird.
Yeah.
But I think he's a little weird.
A little bit. He's a little strange.
Very bright guy, incredibly talented. You can argue one of the 5 best quarterbacks of all time on the field in terms of play. Is he a better quarterback than Brady? Well, he's more athletic than Brady. I don't think there's a better quarterback than Brady, but when you look at him physically compared to a lot of these other guys, you're like, yeah, not really. But he's Tom Brady, and he's got the hardware to prove it.
Yeah.
When they look back, it's going to be almost like he was as Michael Jordan. And I say that because in football, there's 53 guys on a team, there's 22 guys on the field. But when you look at it, why does Drew Brees have only 1? And Aaron Rodgers have only 1? And Peyton Manning have 2 with an asterisk because he was horrific. And that year, Denver carried him to the Super Bowl. He didn't carry Denver to the Super Bowl. So, when you see all these teams with great quarterbacks, not good quarterbacks, great quarterbacks, and they all have 1, and one has 2 almost by accident. Ben Roethlisberger has 2, but the first one he played in, he was terrible. And Brady's got 7. You can tell me Brady played poorly in 1 or 2. I think he's got 4 MVPs or 5. I know in the Super Bowl, I mean. It's almost like he's kept them from winning all these years. And if you had to run up Patrick Mahomes, he's got 1. Should he have 2? Should he have 3? Couldn't get by Brady. So it's very interesting to me how great these guys are, and they're great. Mahomes is great. Aaron Rodgers is great. Peyton Manning is great. I still call him Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah,
He
right.
was a lot greater in the regular season than he was in the playoffs.
Mhm.
And then there's good old Eli Manning with 2, and he beat them twice. So you can say what he's done is more incredible than any other quarterback in the Brady era.
I think so.
To beat them in defensive struggles, but to lead them down the field twice. That's why we'll have this conversation at some point. That's why I think Manning is a Hall of Famer. He didn't just win 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He beat the unbeatable Patriots that one year, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he beat them again. So, we'll see what happens. But I think you're right. I think it's a funny Joe Staszak line. To me, that means don't pick the game, don't touch the game, don't bet the game. But if you ask me to pick a winner, I'll take the Packers getting 1. I don't think they're going to tie. So it's kind of a pick 'em game. And I'll be interested to see if that changes, because these things do change, as you know, Joe.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they do. Well, since we're talking about picks, how'd you do last week? Let's do our picks. And what do you got this week?
Well, I have to say, for the first time ever, I called the Joe Staszak hotline after they announced that Lamar Jackson wasn't going to play. And you allowed me for the first time ever to take back my pick. So I was 1-1-1. I mean, that was really, again, this is the reason I wish we could pick games at Sunday at noon.
Yeah.
Or Thursday at noon when there's 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
We don't usually pick the Thursday game. Obviously, we like the I think it was the Patriots on Thursday the week before, but we don't pick them. Although I did send out a text about the Patriots, but I didn't ask you for a win because I know the Joe Staszak hotline would reject that. But in any event, this week I have 3 games. I really like the Eagles. I know they're at MetLife. I know they fired Jason Garrett again. What do you expect from Jason Garrett? Did you expect Kyle Shanahan? I mean, look at all the years he spent at Dallas. He needs superior talent, and the Giants don't have superior talent. They have some good offensive talent. Do I think Daniel Jones is a franchise quarterback? I don't. And again, when you make that mistake, as we've discussed, it's a 4, 5, 6 year mistake.
Yes, it is.
You got to go get another guy.
Gotta go get another one.
And rather than fire Jason Garrett, I think they should fire Gettleman. He came here. He's a lifer now. He went to Carolina for a while, but he's a lifer with the Giants. The ownership loves him. But I think it was 4 years ago he said, "Yeah, I'm here to fix the offensive line." Well, it's 4 years later. The offensive line is terrible.
Not fixed, yeah.
And I also remember him saying, which is, you'd think he'd be wiser because he was with the Giants for a long time before he went to Carolina. You'd think he'd be wiser in New York sports politics. But he actually said, somebody said, "What's the plan?" He goes, "Well, I got a plan, but I'm not going to tell you." Well, here we are all these years later. You got a plan? Can you tell us what it is now? Because they're now the worst team in the division. So even though my only fear is in the NFC East, they turn the games into a scrum, I really like the Eagles because I think they're going to run the ball. Hooray. And I think their defense can stop Daniel Jones. And don't forget their offensive line. The Giants' offensive line is the weakest part. So I'm going Philly -3.5 at the Giants. I like better late than never at Washington, 1.5 over Seattle. Even with Russell Wilson back, they haven't been good. And our guy Heineke has been unbelievable the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
I'm like, where was this 6 weeks ago? My son and I picked them to win the NFC East. They're not doing that.
No.
If anything, the Eagles are ahead of Washington. And finally, I'm going to take Tampa Bay -2.5 at Indianapolis. Again, my reluctance is it's Bruce Arians. It's not Bill Belichick. But they're getting healthier. Nobody even talked about Murphy Bunting coming back in the secondary. I think he was hurting like week 2. But I think all Tampa Bay has to do is get healthy. Gronk had 6 receptions for 71 yards. They should have listened to Johnny Kallas 10 years ago when he said, "Don't play Gronk the first 8 games." I think that would have been brilliant. But now Gronk is back. I don't think AB is coming back yet, and that's a real concern because he really is the difference maker. As great as Godwin and Evans are, and then you have Gronk at the tight ends. You put AB in there, and he's playing really well when he's healthy.
Yeah.
So I'll take those 3. I'll take Tampa Bay, the Eagles, and the Washington football team. How about you?
I got 2 of your picks. I'm going the Birds too, believe it or not. I mean, you asked me if I'd be taking them a few weeks ago. I would look for where they are and bet against them. But no, I like the way they're playing. I like the fact they can run the ball or have been running it very well. with Jordan Howard. Miles Sanders is back now. Hopefully he's working on securing the ball a little bit of a fumbling
Yes.
history he has. And I like the Bucks. I'm not sure what Indy is. I've seen them play 40 bad. I've seen them up games, give up big leads, throw bad picks, play well against a team that they shouldn't have played that well against last week. So, but I'm going the Bucks. I'm going Brady -3 on the road, and I'm still sticking with my Chargers team. I still think they're better than they've played since they were 3-1, I believe, to start the year. Chargers are playing at the Broncos, giving just 2.5. I thought that line's a little weird too, but because the Broncos I don't think are much, but I'm still going with my Chargers there to AFC West division battles. I got the Bucks, Birds, and the Chargers. One thing on basketball before we roll, brother, the LeBron thing. Anything LeBron does, a lightning round of topic and conversation, but he got a little. Something you rarely see from LeBron. Got a little scuffle, blood was drawn, blood was spilled, suspensions were handed out. What'd you think of the LeBron thing?
Yeah, I think you got to go back really to the very beginning of the play. If you watch the tape, and I certainly watched it, 20 times. Isaiah Stewart is kind of getting pinched, and I would say aggressively boxing out LeBron. He may not like that, but I thought so. LeBron looks over at him before he hits him in the face. He said he didn't mean it. It was an accident. But if you watch it very carefully and even in stop action, he's getting boxed out and he clearly looks over like this and then smacks him in the face. Now, you can tell me he meant to, I don't know, smack him in the chest, hit him in the shoulder. I don't know. LeBron said it was a total accident. And to LeBron's credit, as soon as he did it, you recall when the whistle blew, he was going to the guy with his hand out like to say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. He did do that, LeBron. And Isaiah Stewart, guy smacks you in the face. Today's world, I don't think he's going to walk away. And I'll say it again. I said to you before, when you get that dripping blood in your mouth thing, and now you're bleeding a lot, maybe it covers your eye, it's all down the side of your face. I think that leads a lot of people to go crazy. And he went crazy. For a brief second there, I was hoping they'd clear out like a hockey game and let him go. But Isaiah Stewart's a big boy. I know LeBron is, but Isaiah Stewart's a big guy who had the I'm out of my mind on his side. I think sometimes that helps you, Joe, in a real street fight anyway. Again, I don't know how well, is LeBron James a fighter? I don't know, but I've said it to you 100 times. If you're 6'6" and 220 when you're 12 or 14, who's fighting you? And who are you fighting? Most of the basketball fights you actually see, they look like pansies fighting each other. I've never, I've seen some incredible punches. You can still, I was showing my son, you can still find that Willis Reed punches out 4 Lakers like before he was Willis Reed. But you can find that on YouTube. It's like 1 minute and 10 seconds. He just runs around the court. Rudy LaRusse, he just about knocked out. So it's not like that stuff hasn't happened before, but LeBron was apologetic. I think it was more, I'm LeBron James. Who the hell are you to try and aggressively back me out? And he wanted to send a message.
I do too.
But he overdid the message by accident or otherwise. Did he deserve to be suspended? Yes. He said, well, I think I got suspended because of what happened afterwards. Well, no, LeBron did nothing afterwards. The guy went ballistic, unless he means the guy had blood all the way down his face, in his mouth. I mean, it looked gory to me. But Isaiah Stewart looks to me like a guy I wouldn't want to mess with because he got that crazed look that some people get. And I'm not even saying that's wrong. Sometimes you get angrier as that 5, 10, 20 seconds, and then he tried to say, I'm okay, just to get him away. And then he made another charge and supposedly ran, when they went to the locker room, tried to get to the other locker room because they're interconnected. And look, thankfully he didn't get there. You don't want to see any of that. But LeBron was like a little surprised, and no. When you punch a guy in the face, and that's what he did, or elbow a guy in the face, I thought it was more the back of his hand right across his face. He looked over there before he did it. The results were not what LeBron was just trying to send a message, I think. Eating like a stuck pig. I mean, there's blood all over his face and in his mouth. I'm not surprised he went nuts. So, I thought he deserved the suspension. I thought LeBron deserved the suspension. Do I think you would have got more than 1 game if it was somebody else? I do.
I do too.
LeBron's only been, that was the second ejection of his whole career. So again, he's
Right.
been around forever. He's not a dirty player.
Not a dirty
But I
player.
think sometimes he likes to send a message, and I think he was trying to send a message there. And don't forget, Stewart was getting boxed by the guy in front of him. I forget who it was waiting for the rebound. So he got a little pushback. You can box a guy out on the foul line. That's kind of legal. So I think LeBron was just trying to send the message, and he sent it too strongly. Maybe he didn't want to send it that strongly, but that's what happened.
No,
So,
I
I
totally
think the
agree.
suspensions were correct. But again, it's LeBron and it's Isaiah Stewart. He's a nobody compared to LeBron, which is maybe why it went 2 for 1, because he didn't hurt anybody.
Right.
Stewart didn't hurt anybody. He made some brave runs. It's not like he took a swing at anybody.
Right.
So
Exactly.
you tell me, if the roles were reversed, I think Isaiah Stewart would have got 5 games and LeBron would have got nothing because he never did anything. Stewart, I'm talking about. If the roles were reversed,
Right.
and LeBron did what Stewart did,
Right.
he was trying to get to him, but he never got to him.
I agree. Great stuff, bud. Have a great rest of your weekend. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone out there. Appreciate you listening and watching once again. You can follow Steve on his Facebook forum page. Speaking of sports with Steve Kallas, you can also check out his videos on westchestercountypost.com, on YouTube. This podcast is on YouTube every week, and also on Steve's Facebook forum page. Speaking of sports with Steve Kallas, you can check out me on Twitter at Joe Staszak 4799. We got to go, Steven. Great job, man. I'll talk to you this weekend.
Always a pleasure, Joe.
You too. I appreciate it, folks. Happy Thanksgiving again, and we'll talk to you next week.